You remember Ashley Babbitt, right? The woman who was portrayed by Trump and right-wing media as a martyr after she was shot and killed by a police officer on January the 6th. A warning that the video I'm about to show you is disturbing because the fact is Babbitt was trying to force her way into the Capitol as the United States seat of government was under attack. The officer who shot her was trying to defend lawmakers who'd been trying to put the final stamp of approval on the 2020 presidential electoral ballots. Martyrdom is a tricky and dangerous thing, but the tale has been puffed up by the helium of Trump's big lie, as well as the stereotype that women simply don't do this kind of violent insurrectionist thing. Yet there's also a Pennsylvania mother of 8, Rachel Powell, she's accused of, and is apparently seen on video carrying a battering ram, yes, a battering ram, and using it to smash windows. She was also apparently seen with a bullhorn directing rioters. The vegetarian, yoga-practicing suspect acknowledged her role in the attacks in an interview with The New Yorker, but said she wasn't part of an organized group. She just happened to know how to direct those rioters. There's also Pennsylvania gym owner Dawn Bancroft, who videotaped herself saying she'd been looking for Speaker Nancy Pelosi, quote, to shoot her in the frigging brain. And let's not forget Jenna Ryan, the Texas real estate agent who flew to D.C. on a private plane and openly bragged about her exploits at the Capitol online. She famously tweeted, "Sorry, I have blonde hair, white skin, a great job, a great future, and I'm not going to jail." Ryan did go to jail for 2 months, one of the longest sentences for a non-violent offender. These women have not only been among the most prominent of the January 6th defendants, they're among the more than 100 women charged for their alleged roles in the attack. And a new report from George Washington University's program on extremism highlights how women not only play important and active roles in right-wing extremist groups, but also how these movements operationalize gender norms to achieve their goals. Joining me now is one of the researchers behind that report, Dr. Hilary Matfess, an assistant professor at the University of Denver's Korbel School of International Studies. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Tell us about what you found. What's been the role of women in these movements and how is it shifting?
Right. So thanks so much for having us to discuss our report. The report focuses on contextualizing the history of women's participation in right-wing extremism and white supremacist violence through the lens of January 6th. As we started doing the research and even brainstorming the idea for this project, my co-author and I really wanted to draw attention to this idea that women have been active participants in right-wing extremism in the United States for decades, throughout the history of the movement in the United States, right? So one of our primary goals for this report is to get us past the point of surprise that women are capable of participating in this sort of violence, and to unpack some of the ways that their identities as, mothers, daughters, sisters, are ways in which some of these kind of right-wing, hateful, extremist ideologies can be laundered to be more appealing to a broader audience, or to sort of soften the image.
So you and your colleagues write that women are usually relegated to subordinate roles in far-right movements. What, if anything, made January the 6th different?
Right. So January 6th becomes a really interesting lens through which to view women's participation in right-wing extremism, because as the lead-in clip showed, women in many ways were active contributors to physical violence in January 6th. And as we write in the report, this shows some of the diversity of women's roles within right-wing extremist movements, but also some tension between right-wing extremist groups about what it is women's role should be. In the report, we also go through and talk about how there's actually been tension within some of these groups. If you've been lucky enough to avoid some of the discussions between members of the Proud Boys or discussions about the Proud Boys, then I think it's worth remembering or realizing that there have been a push by some women in the group to establish things like a Proud Girls chapter, and statements that they can contribute in that way. And they were pretty publicly rebuked by some of the members of the group who said, "Do you want to support us? Go home, have kids. That's your way of supporting." And so we see here a tension in the group between the roles that some leaders or members think women should be playing, and the roles that some women themselves would like to play in that group, which can be more physically violent or more public facing.
You mentioned the laundering of images. You told NBC News about the report that, quote, women have served to soften the image of these groups, either to recruit or to be a friendly face for extremist ideology. It's an image that serves both the movement and the defendants, is it not? The women lean on their roles as mothers and nurturers to defend themselves the moment their alleged actions are exposed. Here's part of how Rachel Powell described herself to The New Yorker, quote, I'm a mom with 8 kids. That's it. I work and I garden and raise chickens and sell cheese at a farmer's market. Yes, a mom with a garden and chickens and a battering ram and a bullhorn, allegedly.
Yeah, it's actually, pretty striking to me how effective this can be, both in sort of the public outreach and for deflecting responsibility, right? It can be an extremely sort of apolitical way to present your argument, to say, I'm just a mother, I'm merely concerned about what's right for my child and for my family, even when you're engaging in deeply political work, right? But at the same time, that very same frame has the potential to render someone perhaps a more sympathetic defendant. It can be used as a way to sort of escape accountability for your actions by hiding behind this idea that because, I'm just a wife, I'm just a mother, I'm just a gardener, they don't understand necessarily the full implications of their actions. And so it's actually like a really pernicious narrative, but it's certainly not one that's unique to the January 6 riots. As we document in the report, it's sort of a narrative that has emerged throughout the course of women's contributions to right-wing extremism in the United States.